Chair, honourable members. Good morning, Minister. And again, thank you for your attendance. Thank you for your cooperation, you and your legal team. It hasn't been easy. Obviously, evidence has been given before, and you were required to adapt just whatever your statement, but we now have it. Honourable Chair, honourable members, may I just refer you to the documents that you have in front of you. There are 4 volumes. The first one contains the witness statement with annexures up to annexure SM34 up to page 245. The next volume are annexures SM35 to SM44. So this bundle ends at page 557, and then you have 2 other bundles. We've labelled them Exhibit Bundle 3 and Exhibit Bundle 4, and they contain a combination of exhibits that some would have been already part of the witness statements that have come before you for ease of reference. For example, you'll see the Minister's Directive of 31 December. It's contained in this bundle, and there's other exhibits that are not part of the statements, but which we intend to refer to, and that on the basis of fairness have been made available to Minister Mchunu and his lawyers also to look at, to comment, and I will ask him about it, and so he's not caught by surprise. Minister, perhaps if we can just start off on a personal note, if you can turn to your statement. You're aware of why you are here today. They relate to the media statements made by Lieutenant General Mchunu on the 6th of July, and subsequent to that, the National Assembly appointed this ad hoc committee in terms of reference, which you will see summarized on pages 2 through to 5. So if we could go to page 6 of your statement. And these are all personal particulars about when you were born, your school background, your tertiary education qualifications, and then at paragraph 11, you entered into full-time politics. There's a typo there. I take it doesn't apply to you. It says I entered dull-time politics in 1991. It's full-time politics, isn't it? And you became involved, and you also have the distinction of having been appointed, elected as Premier of the KwaZulu-Natal province until May 2016, when you were removed / I think you used the word fired. You were elected into the National Assembly, paragraph 13, after the 2019 general election, sorry. Your first appointment as Minister was of Public Service Administration on the 30th of May 2019, and then On the 5th of August 2019, you were appointed as Minister for Water and Sanitation. And then after the 2024 elections, after the formation of the Government of National Unity, you were appointed on the 30th of June by the President as Minister of Police. Just before we proceed, Minister, is there anything you would like to add, comment on that's not in the statement, or maybe just comment on any of these issues of a personal political nature?
Not really.
So you're happy that all this is accurately recorded?
Yes.
Can we just perhaps discuss your appointment and then your orientation as Minister of Police? After the elections and the formation of the Government of National Unity, you had been in the previous administration. You had been Minister of Water and Sanitation. Did you know, or were you aware that you would be appointed to another portfolio, especially Minister of Police?
No, I wasn't until it was done.
Or maybe just explain to us briefly, how does it work? You just get a phone call from the President to say, I'm appointing you, and you don't have a choice, or you consulted, or how does it work?
Firstly, I didn't even know in 2019 in the first place that I would be appointed as a Minister of Public Service. And then it went on. I didn't know that I would be moved to water in Department of Water and Sanitation. I didn't know that I would be moved until the announcement was made on 5 August. And then I didn't also know that I would be appointed as Minister at all, and that I would be appointed as Minister of Police. How it happened is that I got a call that I should report somewhere, Mahlamalulu, if not Makhato, on a particular evening, and I went there, and then I was informed.
Okay. What was your reaction when you got the call from the President or from the President's office that you would be appointed as Minister of Police?
Well, I imagine I imagine that at that time, I went there, as I say, not knowing what would happen. And when it happened, I welcomed that, accepted that. And I didn't have a lot to think at that time about, because we're busy with this and that, up until I got time to start thinking about what it means and how I would go about playing my role as Minister of Police.
No doubt, as you've come to realize, as you took on the job of being Minister of Police in our country especially, it's a huge portfolio with a huge responsibility. You nevertheless decided to accept that responsibility, and you've no doubt carried it out to the best of your abilities.
Yes, that was the other part of it. In other words, I stopped thinking about, yes, I've been appointed, given an opportunity, that nice part, and started reasoning about this position and how I would go about and who I'll talk to and all of that to get to know and understand more about it. And indeed, I reasoned at some point that it's a huge responsibility, especially in a country infested with crime like South Africa at the moment. From that, even at that time, that you somehow would stand between life and death of each human being in your country, each and every citizen in the country, young and old, alive and sick, and all of that. You take a very, very, very huge responsibility, and it runs to you personally, not just in terms of it being a job, but personally. That's how I thought about it, and that's how far I went in thinking about what I'd been thrust into.
Can we accept that you certainly had not discussed your impending appointment as Minister of Police with the President or anyone else in a position of influence or authority?
No, the President of the Republic is the only one that appoints and instructs that you'll be called. But the first word comes from him, and as it did, it came from him that I'm being appointed as Minister of Police, no one else. So I didn't know her name.
I mean, this is your third appointment as a minister in our government, and all three are important. Minister of Public Administration, we've got a huge administration, public service, of course, and water and sanitation, and now the police portfolio. So you're certainly familiar with the workings of government and the workings of state, how the state works, how it operates, and so on.
Yes, I do, especially because prior to that, I'd had an opportunity of being appointed as MEC for Education, that is member of the Executive Council in KZN as far back as 2009 after general elections, and I served there for 4 years. But I went on to get an opportunity appointed as Premier of the province. All of that exposed me before the the positions that you've just spoken about. And I may as well add that when I got to the Department of Education in KZN, shortly afterwards, there was some kind of upheaval when one of the unions, SATU, made allegations against top management of the department that I'd just been appointed into. And I had to then deal with that matter, new as I was at that time, in the portfolio. We started by just listening and sort of ignoring what they were saying, but when they showed seriousness about their allegations, I then had to respond. And we investigated the allegations and went through the whole process, and went on to become Premier as well. And at some point, I got confronted with a challenge when one of the HODs, or we were filling up a post in one of the departments there, and when we were on the verge of appointing, then one of the unions, in this instance, NEHAU, made allegations against the individual. And I had to think, what is it that I needed to do? I ended up appointing a panel to investigate those allegations before making final appointment. And then that was followed by a dispute between the individual and myself as Premier, which ended up in the Constitutional Court. And I won it. So that's experience that I got prior to being given an opportunity as minister in the Republic.
So you were vindicated in that court case in terms of the way you handled that particular dispute?
Yes.
Okay. During that, you then also had the distinction of being appointed as Premier of KwaZulu-Natal province. And I take it that during that period, you had the opportunity of interacting at the very least with the provincial commissioner of police at the time. And perhaps during that period, you had also met other senior members of the police.
Yes, definitely. Not for the first time, though. I had been interacting with police for quite a long time, coming from KZN, which was almost all the time during the time when we became active in politics as a student. We were interacting with police even as a student leader after that, and or in the course of time. And when I got to political positions in my political party, the ANC, I got to interact a lot with police because of the dynamics in that province at that time for a long time. And then as well as when I became MEC and became Premier. I've been interacting with police for quite some time at different levels.
So you have both experience of the police, with the police, the way the police conducted themselves at the time when you were an actively involved student, as an activist. So on the one hand, it's how not to police. And on the other hand, post-1994, hopefully you had a better experience.
Yes, I confirm that.
Yeah.
Including getting to experience an arrest in the hands of police. It all happened at that time.
So did you get to know Lieutenant General Mchunu during this period when you were MEC, when you were Premier?
No.
You didn't get to know him at all?
No, not at all.
Who would have been the Provincial Commissioner of Police when you were Premier?
At some point, there was Ngiti. At some point, General Ngiti. That was before. After I became Premier, I can't remember who it was, up until Mamunye. Yes, Mamunye, General Mamunye, Lieutenant General Mamunye, who got appointed more or less at that time when I was Premier. We're working with them.
And your relationship with the Provincial Commissioner and the police at the time?
I would take it that from my side, the relationship was very good. I would take a phone, call her. I would report things when there were things to be reported. We would meet as well. So the relationship was good from my point of view.
Who would have been the Minister of Police at the time?
Minister of Police, there were different ministers during that time. I think we started off with Minister Nathi Mthethwa. And then I think Nathi Nhleko after that, and then Minister Mbalula after that. So they all had, but I knew that at some point there was also Charles Ngakula in political circles. Before I got to government, I did interact with him on various matters in the province.
Now, once you were appointed as Minister of Police in the Government of National Unity after June 2024, you would no doubt have oriented yourself with what your portfolio is all about, and so on. No doubt, that's one of the first things that you would do, isn't it?
Yes.
So do you want to just discuss that? You deal with it in your affidavit at paragraphs 16 to 18. You can either read it, or if you want to refresh your memory, or if you want to speak from memory, you can tell us what your orientation was like.
Yes, I did got, after being sworn in, sought to have a meeting with the leadership of police in the country, just for orientation, starting off with meet and greet, look at each other in the face and get to know each other very well, as it happened in the office there. That was the start of the relationship, a working relationship with top officials in the police management.
So at paragraph 18, you say that my orientation was, paragraph 18, page 9 of your statement.
Yeah.
My orientation was extensive and ended only this year. Some of these orientation briefings touched on matters relevant to the National Political Killings Task Team. You refer throughout to that task team as the NPKTT. In one of the discussions we had around November 2024, I recall the National Commissioner clarifying to all present, that's to you and the Deputy Ministers, that the NPKTT was not a formal unit, but a task team. This to me was obvious because the NPKTT was a task team and not a unit. The important part about what he said was that the intention of the NPKTT was to evolve to a dedicated murder and robbery unit. I will later on demonstrate that the National Commissioner withheld information from this committee. He was aware of a work study that was undertaken and signed by General Satoli, the former National Commissioner, in June 2019. The work study disbanded the NPKTT and resuscitated all the specialized units, including the murder and robbery unit. This occurred before I came into the position. Mine was to give effect to the work study outcomes. So you confirm, having said this, do you want to elaborate or expand before I ask you a few questions about this?
Yes, I confirm that this is my statement as read, and would want to elaborate by saying that I made it my duty after I got appointed that beyond interacting with individual police officers, especially the National Commissioner, as part of my orientation, and interacting with them as groups as they would organize, that I would go out of my way, understand some of the things from documents, from interacting with other people. And one of the people I met, of course, was former Minister Begicele during that time, who did an orientation, handed over a file to me, outlining things, some of them that were on course, others that I would need to deal with, including what the portfolio entailed in terms of various committees of cabinet and all of that. And of course, other people, as they would have wanted to meet me to advise here and there. It happened like that. And I must say I got a lot of support, and I thank all those people who interacted with me at that time, including in particular National Commissioner and his deputies. They were kind, they were open, they were interactive and cordial relations that they sought to develop and I sought to develop. But of course, I did become aware, as I say, of other things which wouldn't have been necessary to then say, let's discuss this and that. Just things that would have been happening in the department in that particular way. And of course, in this instance, later on, I familiarized myself with through meetings. So orientation became orientation, but at the same time, it became discussions. And in some cases, during those discussions, we took various decisions. So it was not always up to the end of the year, just a question of sitting and listening. We were very interactive together with the two deputy ministers, asking questions, but also opening up and leading discussions, but also in some cases, taking decisions when we felt we needed to test our ideas and what we had. And later on, I did become aware of this particular issue of units, of task teams, the difference between task team and the unit. And the names of such, and including the National Political Killings Task Team, and the history and background and all of those things. So we got to know those things up to end of the year in various meetings.
I think it would be expected of any new or a minister coming into a new portfolio that's I suppose that's why you use the word orientation specifically. Or to orient means just to familiarize yourself. And you would rely on people telling you how things work before you get to grips with it, and you can start asking your own questions. So that would have been expected in the first period. But what I want to ask you to comment on is in that second sentence of paragraph 18, you use the word touched. You said some of these orientation briefings touched on matters relevant to the NPKTT. That seems to indicate that it was very superficial. There wasn't any sort of deep, meaningful discussions or consultations on this particular aspect that you mentioned. You just touched on it. It almost seems to indicate it was just on the surface. Your comment?
Not really. As it started, we were quite superficial. Like, what are the branches or if I call that, or in terms of police, what are the divisions? For instance, what are the units who had SWAT? Just superficial. But then we would have another round, much more intense. And then we started discussing separate things like support services alone. We started discussing crime intelligence alone, started discussing other matters alone, like Vispol and so on. So it went on and on as we moved on with the year up until this year. So we would have started in a superficial way, but as we went on with our work, we got to discuss things much more intense. And in this instance, we would go on to discuss, for instance, somewhere in November, the National Political Killing Stars team, like we would discuss other teams or other units much more than we had had at the beginning, beyond just mention. That's why in those meetings, we were then able to have opinions of our own as ministry to say, look, this is how we think or believe we should move forward with these particular teams, including the National Political Killing Stars team.
We're going to get to November 2024, and Honourable Chair and Honourable Members, also to link this to the evidence given by General Sabia, where he had mentioned that this had been discussed in November 2024. You will recall that he was challenged on that because it hadn't been mentioned previously, and that General Masemola, the National Commissioner, said that there was no discussions about the PKTT at all prior to the Minister's directive on the 31st. We had since inquired about this and asked for minutes of meetings, and I am going to refer the Minister in due course to bundle, no, not there, to volume 4, which is exhibit bundle 4, and you'll see there was a meeting on the 1st of November, and it's at pages 163 to 177. But we'll deal with it in a bit more detail shortly. That's the meeting, Minister, sorry, that you're referring to?
That's one of the meetings.
Yeah, there were 3 meetings in November. We asked for the minutes of those meetings. The only minutes which we actually received from the National Commissioner's office were the minutes of the 1st of November.
Yes.
So I don't know whether you can access the minutes of these other meetings.
Not yet.
It would be helpful if you could.
Yes, not yet, but we know we held a meeting again on the 22nd.
Yeah.
Quite a larger meeting, and we had a discussion on this. I made statements in that meeting, which are in the minutes of the first. But I know I made statements also in the other meeting. The National Commissioner made statements in both meetings as well.
So just before we get there, before your appointment at the end of June of 2024, or shortly after, did you have any knowledge of the existence of the task team? When I talk about task team, I'm talking about the NPKTT. Yeah.
Well, I did in a way, in the sense that I would have served in cabinet from 2019, and there would be reports in cabinet with the relevant or from the relevant minister, and there would be other related discussions. But as minister, I'm above average about issues affecting government, because we do meet as cabinet from time to time where you listen to other colleagues making reports or doing reports in various platforms inside and outside cabinet. So you get to be aware of what's happening in that department, even if it's not necessarily a department that you are heading. And in that way, I was in a way knowledgeable in that sense about the existence of some units, even though I couldn't name all of them at that time, as it were.
But you would have been aware of a political killings task team, in fact, when you were Premier.
Yes.
Or shortly afterwards, you gave evidence at the Morani Commission.
Yes, I was aware.
And one of the recommendations from that Commission of Inquiry was that such a team be established.
I was aware even before I became Premier in 2013 of what police were doing with violence and aspects of violence in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. I know, for instance, that there was a task team that was established in the province in 2014. I know there was another one that was established in 2016. And I know that there was then this one. By the time this one was appointed in 2018, I was at that time working at full-time at Luthuli House, headquarters of the ANC, but I was aware that I was aware of those developments. That was before I got appointed as minister in 2019 in the first place.
How long does it take?
Because the president made an announcement in the National Assembly, I think it's in May 2018.
Okay. It takes 2 years.
Here in this National Assembly.
So the intervention that was done by President Zuma.
The situation warranted
it never happened before.
A special task team to investigate these political murders in the province of KwaZulu-Natal.
So he gets promoted from
and they must investigate.
Okay, when he assumed the
bring the perpetrators to justice.
Of being the acting commissioner.
I don't know if you were present when that announcement was made here in the National Assembly, or you became aware of it.
He became a major general.
Yeah.
Well, I know that in 2019, the State of the Nation address, the president did make statements on the need for specialized units in subs to deal with what was happening at that time in the country, and that it was agreed that there would be those specialized task teams. Generally, and later I became aware that indeed relevant minister did start processes of responding to the calls that were made at that time. So I know that there was a particular study that was gone into in that year, 2019, to respond on the call that the president had made, that there is now a need to have specialized task teams, specialized units in subs to deal with various categories of crimes in the country in a much more coordinated, much more organized and resourced manner. And that study was indeed undertaken. But I know that when it was completed, already management of police, and I imagine with the minister leading, they were then entertaining ideas of saying, well, in 2018 we established another task team. We now have completed a study that seeks to rise above various task teams, which, in their view, were not necessarily impactful as they would have wanted them to be in terms of combating crime in the country. And they wanted to take the response of government as far as this is concerned to another level. Hence the study, hence then the decision to establish those specialized.
Sure, I would do honestly.